publisher and editor-in-chief of the Chicken Soup for the Soul book series. And I'm here today with my friend, Dr. Mike Dow, who I like to call America's go-to therapist. And Mike and I have made a really special new kind of Chicken Soup for the Soul book together. We have combined Chicken Soup for the Soul stories with Mike's really practical, easy to implement tips that help you solve your own problems without going to a therapist.
We're actually going to help you train your own brain to be your own therapist. We will walk you through 24 of the most common issues I see in my own practice. And in this chapter, which is one of the most common problems that I see, is how to deal with insomnia.
We have these two really helpful stories in this chapter that you and I chose. And the first one is by Susan Kimmel-Wright. And what struck me was that she had talked herself into the fact that she was never going to sleep well. So she would just get in bed every night. And her thought process was, well, I'm not going to sleep. So then, of course, she didn't sleep. But then I love this other story that you chose by Laura Wisniewski. And she made this ritual every night that kind of transitioned her into sleep. And of course, the ritual that she used is just about my favorite ritual in the whole world, because she had her husband read her a Chicken Soup for the Soul story every night.
Isn't that funny? I think some of these things that people did naturally, you know, those little rituals are so important, especially if you're going to train your brain to be your own therapist. And it's so important if you're overcoming insomnia.
Okay, so I know 2/3 of your patients have a problem with insomnia.
That's right.
One of my biggest desires in the world is not to have insomnia, and working on this book with you has really changed my life, because you said something in the explanation in here about how you should decide how many hours of sleep you're going to need, and then you should assign yourself an extra half hour, so that when you get in bed and you don't fall asleep right away, you just say to yourself, oh, that's my extra half hour.
That's right.
So I don't have to stress about it. And last night, I was a little nervous about all these videos we were making today, especially since I was doing some family stuff first and it was hard to fit it all in. And I got in bed and I thought, okay, I have an extra half hour of leeway, so I'm not going to stress about the fact that I'm still awake. And it worked.
I'm so
and it's
glad.
been helping me so much.
Isn't it funny how simple everyday strategies can make a really big difference when you put them all together?
Yeah, so let's go over, what did you put in the guided journaling in this chapter, because this is just about my favorite chapter.
Yeah, I love this chapter too. So in the guided journal, you're going to change the way you think by identifying and changing your own pessimistic sleep worry. And then in the action part, you're going to do things like Amy did. You're going to establish some of these bedtimes, and you're going to write down your own bedtime and your own wake-up time. You're going to pad that with 30 minutes so that you can give yourself that time to fall asleep, and you're going to keep those times stable, and you're going to apply all of the other advice that I give you in this chapter.
Oh yeah, and the other thing is the transition into sleep, like the ritual. And in Laura's case, it was the Chicken Soup for the Soul story, but that was the other thing I learned from you, is you should have that ritual that gives you that transition into bedtime.
It really helps your brain to know that, oh, this is bedtime. You know, our brain doesn't always go along with what we want when we want it. So having these rituals and allowing the brain to calm down, it can be a really helpful tool in battling insomnia.
Yeah, it's really helped me a lot, so thank you. And if you want to get some other great tips from the book, watch some of our other videos that we have been making today, because we give you a sneak preview of, 4 different chapters in the book with 4 problems that you identified as being the most common problems that you see among your patients.
That's right.
So I think it's appropriate. This is actually the last video we're making today, right? Because it's all about sleep, and we have the dark background behind us, and it's very soothing. And I have to thank you so much for making this book with me. I think that our readers are going to love it, and it's been just such a pleasure working with you.
It's been an honor for me, so thank you for this opportunity. I think people are going to love this book, and it's going to help them change their brains.
That's right, and it's available wherever books are sold, and also as an ebook.
I can't wait for them to read it.